Welcome, guys, and thank you for joining us for our second integral SPRY webinar. And I want to welcome my co-hosts, Dr. Cowan Brown and Drew Collins. I will start with the introductions, and then we'll go over into questions. As always, the objective of this webinar really is to highlight someone who has achieved wonderful things in the U.S. physical therapy market, and to really give the cues and suggestions and some of the ways of bringing excellence to physical therapy market in the United States by some of our leaders that have already done it, as is the case today. So first, I want to introduce Dr. Cowan Brown from Legacy Physical Therapy and Wellness to our webinar. It is terrific to have you here. A little bit about Dr. Brown. He has graduated from North Central College in Naperville with a bachelor's in exercise science, and then received his doctor of physical therapy degree from Bradley University. He further went into expertise in orthopedic physical therapy and is an orthopedic clinical specialist. Dr. Brown has a work experience in orthopedics, sports medicine, vestibular rehabilitation, and concussion management, TMJ dysfunction, neurological rehabilitation, and work-related injuries. He's continued to expand his education and has become certified in strength and conditioning as a strength and conditioning specialist. His skill set includes dry needling, soft tissue mobilization, blood flow restriction, and advanced pain management techniques, and functional strengthening and endurance training. Dr. Brown is passionate about using his expertise to provide the highest quality of one-on-one care to his patient population and to his community, and is on a venture to achieve optimal quality of life for his patients and his customers. Dr. Brown lives in Naperville, Illinois, and enjoys spending time with his wife, son, daughter, and family dog, coaching and watching wrestling, and teaching South College DPT program. And Mr. Collins is one of my colleagues here at SPRY. It is terrific to have you here. He is an accomplished sales leader with an extensive background in sales and marketing. He's currently serving as a director of sales at SPRY and has really seen SPRY grow from the ground up, right? He has proven track record of driving revenue growth and cultivating strong client relationship across various industries. He is an expert in strategic planning and team leadership, and has consistently resulted in exceeding targets and fostering significant development and growth. So welcome, everyone. And we'll start this stronger together, breaking down silos in PT practice. Right. So first question is for CB, and the question is, it has been a journey for you since January of last year. Really, you have had meteoric growth from just the foundation to where you are now. So what were some of the first thoughts that really sparked that idea that, you know, I'm ready to go into this on my own? So just how did you come to that?
Yeah, no, thanks, Alex. Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. Thank you for everyone being on the webinar today. I'm very excited to talk a little bit about my journey. Alex, to actually answer your question, owning my own physical therapy space was something that I've always wanted to do. Ever since I got into PT school, I saw a little bit of the dynamics being a physical therapy tech going into PT school. I just had a lot of opportunities to talk to owners of different physical therapy companies, and always enjoyed the idea of that. When I went into clinical practice, I worked for a lot of organizations throughout the Illinois market, and it was one of those things where I was very grateful for all the experiences that I've gained. I have learned so much as a clinician, saw countless number of patients that just kind of helped my clinical reasoning. I've been in leadership roles throughout those opportunities as well too, where I was able to build upon my operational skills and understand patient management to team management to just how numbers and things like that kind of run a business within this market. So I've been very blessed. And then, you know, it was about a couple of Februarys ago where my wife and I, we just had a discussion. about the idea of what if we actually do this? And what if we actually like just take this step and make this leap of faith and start our own practice? It was always a thought. It was always talked about. There are a number of different excuses that we came up with why we shouldn't, right? We can always I'm think as a human person, we tend to make great excuses for things we want to do, and why we don't do them. So we kind of made a decision, and then that next day I just started to get to work on I started to get to work on all the checklists of what I need to do to kind of get going. And then one by one, we just kind of knocked down different barriers that we thought could be a little bit more challenging for us to get going. And yeah, and then we were able to launch Legacy Physical Therapy and Wellness January 2nd of 2024. And it's been something I've been very proud about. It's reestablished some of the reasons why I became a physical therapist in the first place, and getting back to my roots in that manner, for sure.
That's wonderful, and I think certainly the Naperville community is grateful for you being there. And the zero to one is the hardest step, right? Once you get to that one, everything else just starts to fall into place. For the next question, I would like to ask you really to take a step back before January 2nd, 2024. Having been through a number of these legacy large organizations, and having been work your way to a position of excellence, but also a position where you were able to build territories working for the large organizations, what were some of the lessons learned, and what also were some of the potentially frustrations from using some of these older systems in those organizations, and how did you learn from that, and what lessons did you take into your own organization?
Yeah, no, great question. So I do believe, my experience with some of the large organizations, led me to get almost a realization of what the healthcare world is like, from almost every aspects of patient care, how to go about patient care, how does business fall within that realm as well too. So, throughout my experience, I saw several shifts within companies on how certain numbers, profits, using revenue, using profits, using visits, working with insurance and working on rates, and how to leverage that with workers' comp and some other factors, and then looking at how that all those metrics that the leadership team, executive teams were to look at, and they were kind of make the decisions for the whole company, on that, and how that filtered down to the clinics, and how that affected positively or negatively towards the staff, right? And so I've been in situations where I've been with companies that appeared like they had so many really good benefits and things in place, where, from a salary standpoint, from benefits to continuing education, all those things were in place. But then you can kind of see some certain shifts within the business practices of how those things start to get altered and changed, for maybe what perhaps they may think is a betterment of the company, but then sometimes that can play a role in the mindset and attitudes of the staff and the people that's providing the care for the patients that are going through the door. So I think one of my largest frustrations remained on, quality of care. It's something that I've always strived for, and I've always will continue to strive for as a physical therapist, is just to make sure that we can provide great quality care. In certain models with larger companies, the ability to provide quality care can be much more difficult to do, when you have to sometimes see multiple patients at a time. You have to kind of become savvy. Your flexibility component of what that what flexibility definition means is a little different as far as, hey, can you squeeze this patient in because we need this number versus like this patient actually really needs to get good care, right? And so looking at all those like different things and how that affected myself from almost like a burnout standpoint, but then also looking at my colleagues within the organization as well too, and how that has affected some of the growth as well too. Always believed in the model of, if you do the right thing, if you feel like it's right and you do the right thing and you have this integrity about it, then things will work out in our field within physical therapy. Healthcare and physical therapy, I don't think is hard. You just have to, one, be a good person. I think if you're a good person and you stay true to your beliefs of why you became a physical therapist, and you truly are focused on the quality of an individual that's in front of you, whether that's a staff member or a patient, I think things will work out from the business side of things. And sometimes I have felt with the larger organizations that business has always come first from a financial operations side of things, and then that kind of gets filtered out to patient care, where indirectly that could I have seen it hurt practices more so, and hurt the culture more so, and that's something that I didn't want to affect me and my ability to do something I love. And so you start to gain this like passion fatigue when it comes down to things. You're really passionate about what you do for a living. I'm passionate about being a physical therapist, but when you have certain systems that are working almost against some of your beliefs and your ideals of how physical therapy should be, then that's where you can start to burn out a little bit as well. So I'm sure you've seen that across your careers, both of you guys. So
yes, CB, great to see you. Appreciate you being on here. It's exciting to have seen your journey from even when we were when you first decided to join us, and you were just building that building out. I mean, I remember that. So for anybody who's ever been on a demo with me, this is who I've been referencing as our startup who really took off. So excited about that. For some of the folks who don't know, right? Obviously, you're in a unique challenge geographically with where you're at. Two of the largest players in the space, one of which both you and I happen to used to work for, are headquartered right there, where it seems like there's almost one of them on every single corner, right? So for you, you had to differentiate yourself, and that's been one of the big things that we've heard from folks on calls is, even as they're starting out, it's that initial apprehension about how will I grow my client base. Can you just touch a little bit on, what you say was the biggest thing that you did to be able to not only drive clients to your business, but then also, referrals and things like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's something that when you're in a metropolitan area where it's saturated with physical therapists, right? And you have physical therapy on every corner. Within a 5-mile radius, I can count maybe 25 other outpatient orthopedic clinics. So the question is, how can you help yourself, separate and be confident with that decision to say, why would I put myself in a situation where I know the competition's great? I think if you, again, I'm going to always go back to this point. If you kind of stay true to what you believe and you want to work with a patient population that you feel like you can help serve the best based on your skill set, you have to go back and you have to create systems that are going to support the ideal that you have to create that to get those patients in the door, right? And so you have to understand your market. Always tell people that I work with that have asked similar questions to you is, you have to understand your market. You have to understand your how referrals, what are the most amount of referrals that are sent to physical therapy in Illinois, in Chicago. What does that look like? And so, being able to build a nice referral base from, for physicians, physician assistants, athletic trainers, looking at all those things. So heading into building my own practice, throughout my career, I started pretty early on as far as trying to get out there and market. I feel like as physical therapists, when we go through physical therapy school, they teach you nothing about how to market yourself and market your services. And so you're almost like, all right, I'm a physical therapist now. I work for a larger company. Well, I'm dependent on them to bring referrals to me, where I'm like, but no one knows who you are, and I have no idea who they are, right? As far as the doc. So being able to put yourself in a position where you can set yourself up for success and advocate for yourself and your services, and get the patients that you want to see. So I always kind of break things down into a couple of different components. So, establishing relationships is different than marketing. And so I always encourage, providers, like, when you go out, there's going to all of those 100 physical therapy locations that we mentioned, they are all doing the same thing. They have these point people that are going out and handing out these pamphlets, handing out, hey, we do X, Y, and Z. Everyone says the same thing. We have quality care, all the same messages, right? So you have to be able to go out there and say, hey, I want more than just me telling you what I do. I want to be able to understand and work together as a provider, physical therapist, and patient. I want this relationship to be truly special. And I think that's how we can optimize our level of quality of care as well too, within this market. So, first thing, building a relationship with referral sources you feel like patients that your skill set is most beneficial for. Put yourself out there in the community as well too. The community is well served. I had to get used to like some of the markets, online markets. So the Facebook groups and Instagram groups and all those things. So using resources that you can. So I was able to leverage and build some of those relationships throughout my years. Keeping close relationships, not burning bridges, all those things. And once you have a solid foundation and base, one of the largest referral sources I want to really reiterate to everyone is your own patients, right? So every patient that walks through the door is an opportunity. You have an opportunity to create a very special moment for them. Throughout their whole plan of care, right? From day one, when a patient walks in, I spend most of my time that very first visit with the patient, just talking about who they are. I get to know obviously their symptoms and their try to get down to their pathology and help with treatment. But I try to spend a lot of time to get to know who they are and build that rapport. I know that down the line, if I treat this person really well and treat them like a person, and they see me as another person, and we have this really good relationship and rapport, they are going to go out and they're going to tell their friends and family and all those things. So I had a unique opportunity where I was previously in my last location was nearby my current clinic, and so I think it just kind of really helped filter some of that business over as we came across. But I had a lot of unexpected referrals that I didn't see necessarily come my way, but it's been a true blessing because a lot of them have been some past patients I've worked with in the past, and then some have been some of the relationships that I've formed with some physicians in the area and things like that as well. So it's been a obviously taking a risk. When you take a risk on something and take that leap, I always say try to be as calculated as possible when you can, but at the same time, I think if you make a commitment and you make a decision on, hey, I am going to open up my clinic, and you make that decision, most likely everything that follows that is going to help you become successful, right? And so you're going to put yourself in situations where, hey, I made the most difficult decision already, is to open up my own practice. Now I have to do everything in my power to make sure I can be successful within that practice.
Yeah, I think there's so much to unpack in that answer, and that's a wonderful answer, CB. I think that most importantly, opening a clinic and focusing on providing excellence in patient care. There's also the other side of it, which is taking care of people that are working with you and for you. And creating these optimal systems where they feel nurtured and supported in doing what they do, which is providing care to the patients and being resources to the community. And that's oftentimes overlooked by larger organizations, which are just trying to create this assembly line type of care. So I think that by the fact that you've made the decision and went off on your own, you can really control some of these levers that really ensure excellence, both on a patient-facing side, but also on the employee-facing side. So it is so great. I think for the next question, I think it will be perfect to challenge into the next iteration of this webinar, which is if we trace back for over last year, since January 2nd of 2024, has there been a moment where you were like, oh my, this is pretty hard, and it's a little different. And so what were some of these moments and how did you choose to manage them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as much as you think you are prepared for a situation, there's always the unknown, right? So I would say there's definitely challenges just throughout the day, whether it's coming from, hiring individuals to getting used to and understanding and manipulating some situations. For example, coming into a space for using a different EMR. I have never used SPRY before in my past, and I think being able to kind of get used to the new system, which has been extremely easy. I'll let them mention the interface and everything is awesome within SPRY. But being able to now fully go from most things that have been controlled by the larger organization, right? So I didn't get to see the behind the scenes of how they manipulate some of the features that some EMR companies do have, and so being able to fully understand the ins and outs of how does this report interface with this report, and how does the home exercise program it gets built, how do I make sure this is going to fit our system in our clinic and our culture, and so from everything, looking at the EMR, looking at more in depth of like the revenue cycle and how payments are being made, was I wouldn't even say a challenge, but it was just more so like, I don't know how this works, because I was never on that side of things. So being able to find ways and bounce ideas off other people of how do we get certain systems to become a little more automated versus me doing a lot of the manual work itself too. And so I think all those situations, if an insurance claim gets denied, that's no longer, I call someone at in the organization to like, hey, we're getting all this denial. Actually, I didn't even know if claims were denied or accepted, and that was all handled on the back end. So being able to handle some of those things, and understanding, and just trying to learn as much as possible when it comes down to that. As far as I just been lucky and blessed throughout my career to have been in a lot of leadership situations where I have been through so many situations where things are out of our control, and understanding like, if we're having an issue with getting patients in the door, how do we manipulate and focus on being better marketers? If we have a issue with patient retention, how can we use some of the systems that we have available to us to help out with like retention of patients and making sure that patients are getting good quality care. And if it's a scheduling error, or is it an ease of use, in this world that we live in now, everything's becoming so much more automated, so much more digital. And so being able to have some of the tools, one that SPRY has been able to, having like a patient portal where a patient could go in and make appointments, and have that system where we just live in this where it fits in our society and our systems now, which has really helped out with some of this some of the workflow, which has been great.
And CB, just to touch on something else that you mentioned earlier, especially when we talk to like a lot of the startup clinics, right? They're kind of faced with two roads, and you took one, and there is another one, to where, okay, I'm starting out my business. Do I want to give away, essentially part of my revenue on the billing aspect and focus my time on the marketing, which is definitely the path that you took, right? Some folks opt to the other way. Can you talk about what went into your process, your thought process of having, us do the billing, and what that allowed you to do, and whether or not you think that paid off?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I for sure, I kind of did like almost a self-analysis of like, all right, what are some things that I definitely know about physical therapy and the operations of physical therapy? What are some things I'm very like relatively weak at? And so when it came down to billing, since I didn't have a lot of that, I was looking for a lot of assistance with that. And so being able to, when I was going through the interview process, I interviewed several different EMR companies during my before making a decision. And obviously I talked to Drew quite a bit during this process. And billing was some of the main questions that I had when I was going through this process. So I think being able to have everything all in one place, EMR, and having SPRY, the team at SPRY, being able to handle a lot of the billing when it comes down to claims and handling a lot of that stuff, it has been instrumental in our practice. I at the beginning, I would say I was looking more into the revenue cycle and how things will build, and looking at the billing tab under a little bit more, just so I can learn and understand a little bit more how that works. But in my experience with Brian, having them do my billing has really helped me shift my focus over to a lot of other things, part of the practice, where I can really help grow my practice. We can allow my time that I would be looking at for all the billing things that I know SPRY has been great as far as being able to, manage our claims very well, helped us with clearing houses and all those things. It's been relatively, I always use the word easy lightly, but it's been easy to allow me to be able to do some other aspects of the job to help grow our clinic and company, and provide great quality care for our patients. I think that's the biggest thing. My goal is to spend as less time doing any sort of stuff behind this computer, and try to really put all my time and effort and all my PT's effort into patient care. And that's because I know at the end of the day, the better that we can serve patients, the more that we are going to grow. And that's just, it's going to be that way around. So having a billing department that you trust, obviously having it very integrated within our EMR system, so we don't have to do any sort of outside billers or anything like that, it's been super helpful. And then having the communication style from the EMR company SPRY has been awesome too, just so I can learn as much as I can as an owner, but then that also it allows some of my staff PTs to learn some of this as well too. So
yeah, I think that's terrific, and I think being able to trust, right? That point of trust into the system and trust into the organization. That's whatever the saying is about trust, that it's hard to earn and easy to lose. And so when you are aligning with the systems, if the system fails you and if it has a complete wipeouts or is not functional. You come to the office on Monday and your EMR is not operational until Tuesday. That's a pretty big deal. And there's definitely systems that do that systematically because that they can get away with it, and people continue to return to them. But having a system that is reliable, that is consistently reliable by providing you both access and functionality, is really unique. And I think that is one of the points when exploring for these partnerships, right? We look into partnerships on a human base where I partner with a colleague or I partner with a patient on a recovery journey. But we also then partner with systems, and that technology and systems support us into what we do. And ultimately and optimally, they support us in a way that we can worry more about the patient care or about the patient experience. So that's wonderful, and it's awesome that you were able to operationalize it this way. So now we'll move to the next question, and that is more on that fluctuation in the beginning of the year to the end of the year, clinic economics. So one of the main points in operating a clinic or a business is really keeping costs under control. So there's a really important to know how and when to invest into peripherals into the systems. So what are some of your strategies about this cost control operation, and how do you optimize systems you align with to ensure that you can invest wisely and invest in not just into the present, but also into the future of your organization?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for that question. And that's obviously one of the big questions, that I had going into starting legacy as well too, is, how would I ensure that I'm controlling overhead? How am I ensuring that we're going to have enough profits to be able to even, survive this world of PT. So, having partners like you mentioned, and good quality systems has been great. So, first thing, I think one of the largest things I was looking for before starting legacy is looking for a great accountant, looking for someone who can help me understand that a little bit more. So we use QuickBooks Online, and that has helped as far as being able to capture things from the financial side of things. So looking at profit loss balance sheets and making sure that I have a full understanding of how all that works. But then also looking at it from one of the biggest things obviously from PT is having an EMR company that you can work for that has systems built in to make things relatively easy to follow from a revenue side of things. So without information, without reports, without a little bit of time as well too, it's very hard to really understand like how your profit and loss and all those things that you're going to collect. What are some barriers that you're going to run into? So I've been again very grateful to have not to have worried about that as for a long time when I first got started at Legacy. So the first 3 months I was probably more so on top of it. Once I saw that the things that SPRY was able to do, the things that I was able to work with my accountant, and all those other processes that we had in place to ensure that we're controlling overhead as best as possible, I think was great. I think one big thing that I've learned is that at my previous employer, I did have access to our clinic financials and was able to kind of read and understand those a little bit more. But then moving on over to Legacy PT and Wellness, the idea of having full control of what's being received and what's being received from insurance companies, from patients, from any source of where you get income from, and just having a general understanding of all that, you can really get an idea. And so luckily SPRY has so many different reports that we can pull up that can help you keep track of that in real time, which has been extremely helpful. And it really has taken, again, my attention away from doing so much things on a business aspects of things. Obviously, I want to grow understanding and understand the processes, but it has really let me pour into what is making this business grow from a financial side of things, but also just bringing more patients through the door, and that's just patient care. So the more that I'm able to get away from as many other factors that control people and with private practices, and focus a little bit more of my attention on the quality of care and how can we enhance the patient experience. That's all I'm looking for, and that has been, I think, one of the reasons why we had a little success so far as we start off. Throughout that, I was able to kind of really refocus my attention to what's really gonna help grow the business. So
in CB, another thing, one of the big costs, obviously, that every clinic has, especially as they're growing, is the human capital expense, right? Hiring people. One of the things that I hear all the time is, heck, I can't hire anybody, let alone, just a warm body who's got the degree, right? You've been able to not only hire in the last year, I know you listed it as a challenge, and as I've been on calls the past couple of weeks, telling folks about this, this was an area that if I didn't bring it up, folks would definitely be upset with me for not bringing it up, because with you have not only been able to hire great people, but you've been able to hire therapists and out recruit, all the people at CSM who have, crane, claw machine games and all this stuff, right? You're competing against so many people for talent. How have you been able to not only get warm bodies, but get great people and great therapists as well? And you're not allowed to say just be a good person, because yes, that's a given with you that you're a good person.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, Drew, and like it's first and full disclosure, I've been very blessed. All the clinicians that I have worked with up until this point, I have worked with in the past. So I think it comes down to every opportunity that you do have, every interaction that you do have with another PT student or anything like that that you engage, like be able to help you foster that relationship. You never know how things are going to go in the future, and so you have that aspect, but also I think putting yourself in situations where you set yourself up for success, understanding the market. I think it's not just myself, but I have colleagues that have opened up their own private practice as well too, and obviously there are struggles everywhere we go when it comes down to hiring just within the PT industry at this point in time. However, I think there's a lot of definitely students, but also clinicians that they're looking for opportunities to work in maybe a smaller setting, right? So if you feel like, if you're on here, you feel like there's like, man, I'm really worried about the hiring aspect of things. If you stay true to like kind of your culture and your identity as a private practice, a lot of clinicians, a lot of students are drawn to a smaller feel, and they want to be able to provide good quality care. And it has been shown throughout the research, looking at private practices can control overhead a little bit more, so they are able to spend a little more time with the patients, which I think a lot of people seek out that. As an adjunct faculty member at South College, I interact with a lot of students, and that is one big hot topic that a lot of students will say, like, hey, like I had a clinical where I would see multiple patients per hour and those things like that. So that it gets into all those situations where if you have a little bit more control at a private practice on how well you can leverage some of those things. But then I would say some of the downsides of being a private practice is obviously can you compete with benefits, right? And so that's another big hot thing that you hear from a lot of clinicians and students that are coming out as well too. Like, man, everyone wants these higher salaries. How do we compete with some of the larger companies when it comes down to, their healthcare and their fringe benefits and all the things that they offer. And I would say from my experience, it's completely up to how you want your practice set up. I am all about investing in my employees. So and I'll be happy to share with anyone if you guys are interested, but if you look at our breakdown of where a lot of our money and our overhead is allocated is primarily on my staff. I'm okay with paying my staff well. I'm okay with offering benefits. I know that's going to shoot my overhead up a little higher, definitely as a small private practice. However, I'm all about being able to take care of people that I know that's going to be doing great work for you and your company. And it's only going to help that person continue to work and challenge themselves. I will be a little bit of a hypocrite if I'm fighting for our profession to be seen and recognized as doctors of physical therapy and be able to get paid and reimbursed the way that we should. If I don't stay true to some of those beneficial the benefits that kind of come along with that. So you do good work. You support your patient. I mean, you treat your staff well and you treat your patients well. And again, things will continue to grow from there, Drew. So I appreciate that question, because I think there's the question of like, man, how do I compete with some of these larger groups when it comes down to getting people through the door. But I think more people will be surprised of how many people are interested in heading the route of a smaller private practice. So
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's that's the foundation, CB, and the fact that you're investing into relationships and you're investing into people. I think we look at an investment only from a financial standpoint, but there was an economic study that looked into the importance to employees, and salary was like number 4. I think that relationship, that mission, the sense of purpose was so important. I think you're doing that in your practice where you're setting the foundation for these clinicians to have a sense of self-worth and to be able to practice the type of care that they want to practice. And obviously support them financially too, but it's the bigger picture, right? It's everything. It's not just the just money. And being able to again like grow, and I think just the proof is in the pudding, and the fact that you have been able to grow in 12 months to 4 full-time employees, the fact that your practice is growing, it's only the beginning, and I'm confident that it's going to continue to grow and thrive just because of your Magna Carta, your true north that you continue to follow. So that is wonderful. So for the next question, I want to change a little bit, and I want us to geek out a little on the technology and the tech aspect of it. So there's a point of technology that has emerged, and so what was innovative, I think, last year now is kind of becoming main form. But there is all these buzzwords, right? The AI, the automation, the tech processes. How have you been able to use technology in your practice, and where do you envision this going into the future?
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great question. Coming from someone who was definitely towards the bottom of the whole tech savvy world. There's a lot that I still obviously need to learn, but it's here. AI and all those different other futuristic approaches in tech is here, and it's if used correctly can really help out like your workflow. So obviously using SPRY has AI integrated within the system, which has been extremely helpful for notes, being able to documentation, being able to be a little bit more efficient on that end. being a little more compliant with that. With that being said, too, looking at it from if you are in network with insurance companies and Medicare and all those things, being able to have some systems that can help you become a little bit more compliant with your documentation and things like that as well has been great. And so I think moving forward, having a use of some of the tools through AI is going to be extremely helpful, from one, documentation, but then how we can integrate that in with patient care quite a bit too. So using home exercise programs that has capabilities to interact a little bit better with patients, compliance with treatment and compliance with plan of care has been a hot topic, for a long time within physical therapy. So, how can we better have that interface with patients? So we use MedBridge as our home exercise program base, and also which has had the capabilities of being able to provide some great interaction with some of our patients and help with compliance and some of those issues. But it uses some recent technology where we can have them, just pull an app up now. They can download an app on their phone, and we can send them videos and things like that, and on basic instruction. At Legacy, we were able to kind of take advantage of the feature where we can customize videos and things like that. So we have a lot of videos that we do ourselves, and that we are able to kind of share that with our patients and have that interface and interaction with that too. But like I said, I think there's so much more opportunity, and I look forward to going to I look forward to learning more about it, but also going to more conferences and things like that to see what else is out there, as far as being able to use some of that technology to our advantage. I'm not sure. Obviously, Alex, I know you went to CSM, and having some of those, having that experience of seeing some of the up and coming in the tech that was there, and how that's going to be integrated. So I'll be interested to kind of hear from you a little bit on that as well.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. And like, unfortunately, we don't have the next 16 hours, right?
Yes.
I think that like we are now only in a beginning. This is where like the system's only beginning to mature. So being a part of this process, and especially being part of the system like SPRY, where they're like all in on this, being on the forefront of technology and innovation. There's I think a lot, like technology does things well that humans don't, and humans do things well that technology can't keep up with. And ultimately, I see the future where we as humans do what we're supposed to do, which is build relationships, taking care of people, apply clinical knowledge. But then technology takes care of analytics. Technology takes care of clinical guidance, and takes care of a lot of these redundant low value points. Like you don't need to spend 10 minutes writing a note. You don't need to spend 30 minutes trying to find BI information so that you can really identify these opportunities. Like we can have this information given to us through technology, and we can optimize what we do best. So with this, I'm actually going to ask Drew to read out some questions from the audience. We have some really good questions, and I think, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, definitely. And folks, feel free to jump on in and throw your questions in there as well. I have a couple already that are good. I'll read them all off as anonymous too. So don't worry if it even comes through as your name. I'll keep everybody's names anonymous. But the first one we have, CB, so far we got 3, and I think more will be coming in here shortly. But what's the biggest piece of advice you would give to someone who is an experienced PT, so very similar to yourself, but they're burned out with that mill model, right? And they're looking to branch out on their own? What would be that number one, the biggest piece that you'd give them?
Yeah, I would say my number one thing is, first, if you are in that situation, I've been there. If you already have the ideal that you want to maybe branch out on your own, you have to first make the decision to do so. So I think, again, I'm a big strong believer. Everything in life begins with a decision, right? So you have to be able to make that decision first. Once you make that decision, then I would just make sure you do your homework. There's definitely so many resources out there to help you guide you on what are all the steps so I need to do to get my practice going. And so I'll be happy to. I believe we're going to share our email address with you guys all at the end of this, but I'll be very happy to share some of those resources with you as far as what are some of the steps that I had to take to make sure that I'm going to do everything in my power to make my transition out of those companies into my own thing a little bit more successful. So, but the point that I've been stuck with for 2 to 3 years in my career when I was thinking about opening up my own thing is letting all the excuses that I'm telling myself for why I'm not going to do this just go out the window, and just really making that decision on, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm fully, I'm going to be all in on making this decision. So you will surprise yourself at how successful you will be once you actually fully make that decision. So
Perfect. Awesome. And then the next one that we have here is, as a startup clinic, how do you decide your payer mix and who to credential with and where to remain out in network? Can you walk through a little bit how you thought about that?
yeah, also great question. So yeah, I depending on where you are, I will make sure that you understand like your insurance providers in that area. Maybe understand a little bit about the reimbursement on those factors, and kind of based on maybe one your experience, but then also doing some research on all of that within the market that you're in. Be able to come up with a plan that's gonna best you think suits you and your practice. For us, we know that I've been in network with some insurance companies that I just refuse to go back and network with. In my situation, we made a decision that we are going to do a hybrid model when it comes down to insurance providers. So we are only in network with Blue Cross Blue Shield, PPO plans, and also a government Medicare plans as well too. And we have accepted workers' comp and some auto cases as well too. That's outside of that market. We have chose not to be in network United Healthcare, Aetna, Humana, purely based on some of the reimbursement factors, and then also my experience with those companies that will limit the care that I think patients needed, and that provided some frustrations along the road as far as if I had an ACL patient and the insurance company gives me 6 visits to work with for my ACL reconstruction. That's where those things become a little bit more tedious, and I spend more time now on the phone with another PT that's trying to say why we are only getting 6 visits. So be smart about those decisions when you're coming down. Look at some of those reimbursement factors, but also look at insurance companies that have typically almost devalued our profession a little bit too, on the services that we provide. Will ultimately help you with that decision. And then we also have a cash-based model as well too. Cash-based could be a little bit slower to grow, but if you are providing great care, you have good relationships with docs, and and that word starts to get out saying like, hey, go see CB, go see Jeremy, go see whoever that's in that clinic. More and more patients are willing to make those decisions and pay out of pocket. And also, you can always go the out of network route too with providers as well. So I would just make sure you do your research and homework based on the market that you're in, though.
Awesome. And then this one, actually, I swear it did not come from me, even though this is my past life here. And I don't think you're currently doing the CB, but worth it for smaller practices to try and get direct employer contracts. I'll just say before I kick it over to you, anybody has any questions on that, they'll include all the information. Something I actually personally used to do at the place where CB and I both used to work at. So more than happy to help folks if they're looking at exploring that option. From my personal experience, a lot of it kind of depends upon where what your employer base looks like in your area. And are they headquartered there? Do they have enough employees? Are they on a self-funded plan? But more than happy to, if anybody wants to set up a call with me, we'll make sure that we include my information as well, and my cell phone. Give me a call anytime. More than happy to walk folks through who want to do that. Anything you want to add to that, CB?
Honestly, I do not. So I do think that's I will refer to Drew on that question. But I do think are you meaning more binding contracts like non-competes and all that as well too?
No, so I think like when they like the direct employer, so basically what they're talking about is self-funded health, like a company's got a self-funded plan
Got it.
and they go direct to them and they negotiate a rate outside of their typical plan. So it's a way for the
Got
employer to
it.
save money. It can be very beneficial, especially if you've got some like manufacturing, things like that in your area, or like a lot of tech hubs. If you
Got
live
it.
in like the Research Triangle, yeah, it's really good. So
Got it.
awesome.
Okay. Sorry, I misheard the question at first. The we personally choose not to, but again, it goes based on like your area. And if you want your primary population, if you think you want a good portion of your population to be within that kind of that work, the work industry and work related injuries and things like that, then it could be worth exploring a little bit more. But uh, it's interesting because some of those contracts really the out of if you're out of network and you still see a work injury, you'll the reimbursement is almost about the reimburses a little bit is sometimes almost 50% more than what you're getting than if you have a contract. So something to kind of think about too. We are approached all the time with some of those contracts, and I look at that company had just reimbursed us one visit, and I look at some of the contract rates, and it's about 50% less with the contractor rate. So just something to kind of keep in mind. But you will obviously, hopefully, be able to promote more referrals if you do go and network with some of those contracts. So
Awesome. And then the last one that we have here is how does SPRY help work your AR? And then I'm pretty sure too on this next part, CB, with your relationship with your patients, that it's you who does it. But I know that we do this for other folks as well. I just want to throw it in there. But if patients have questions on the billing, who do they call, and do we handle the patient communication?
yeah, for sure. So the SPRY has a nice report that can help you with understanding what your AR is. So you just go to a patient collections report, and then you can see all the claims that have been processed, or if it's self-pay, you can see all that in that one zone, and then you are easily able to kind of calculate where you are from a patient collection standpoint, and how much you still all the services that you already provided, and how much you still have to collect from patients as well too. So it's pretty easy, easily tracked from just a couple clicks within SPRY to understand where you are from AR's perspective. And then from that angle, again, you can kind of choose SPRY. SPRY does have the capability of being able to kind of help out with those situations. I believe if you form a pretty good system in house too within your space, you should be able to kind of control those AR factors a little bit easier on your end too. Sometimes, from my experience, is that if I'm dealing with AR and trying to collect money from patients, who has the relation with that patient is going to be you guys as the provider. So you guys can most likely have a little bit better of a conversation with that patient versus maybe someone who is from the outside just giving them a call and saying like, hey, you owe us all this money, right? So, but however you want to go about it, but I feel like from a personal standpoint and having that interaction with that patient, since you have that rapport, that having a conversation, how you want to work things. Hey, do we need to set up a payment plan? I really want to obviously continue to work with you, all those things. So I think it allows you to have a little bit more of a patient flow. But again, on the front end, if you can minimize as much of the AR as possible on the front end, then I think you save yourself a lot of tougher conversations too. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, CB. I want to thank everybody for coming too. This has been awesome. Second one. So glad that we got to have you for it. And I've been spending over a month telling folks about this. So I'm so excited to have you here. And I love seeing the success that you've had over the last year. And you know, I tell folks every time I see you're on LinkedIn listing another PT, I keep adding to the list of, I tell him, yep, he's hiring his fourth. So it's just
Yeah.
it's exciting to see, and really appreciate it. Alex, anything you want to add before we kind of
Yeah,
close it
I
up
think
here?
whoever's attending, I hope to take an example of CB and what he has built. I think, especially in the US, there's so much immense value we provide as clinicians, but we just need to take that first step into building your own legacy, your own organization, right? So legacy PT, building a legacy. But I think thank you for doing everything you're doing, and I'm so happy that we're able to connect here. But I'm also so happy that you were able to get your message out, and I hope that you continue to grow and continue to monitor your growth. So, and Drew, thank you for your wonderful questions as well. So,
No, and I appreciate you guys, Alex, Drew. You guys have been awesome. Thank you, Drew, for making everything easy for getting on the EMR system. And you know, that's again one of the biggest decisions that I had to make for the company. And having that and being confident, and now knowing that you guys delivered on what you guys are saying has been great. And then Alex, it's been a pleasure, obviously, to follow you throughout your career. You've been instrumental, not just to myself, but a lot of people and PTs and our colleagues that work alongside us. They have great respect for you, just like I do. And so it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully I can answer any more questions. If you guys do have any more questions, feel free to email me. I'm always happy to connect with people that are potentially looking to open up their own practice, or if they have any questions in general about PT. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to it. And if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us.
Thank you, everyone. This webinar has now come to an end.